sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and can even keep you from getting the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Listen, if you're like me, you hate doing admin crap. Number one, because you're not good at it. And number two, because you know it's taking you away from the stuff that actually makes you money. So why are you doing it? Do what I did. Go to worksby.com right now and let them pair you with a real executive assistant. Once I started working with Cheryl at Worksby, my income went up 40% in 1 month, and my working hours went from 70 down to 40. It's a game changer. Go to worksby.com right now, book a call, and tell them Walker sent you. If you do, you'll get 2 extra hours of service for free as a bonus. So if you're ready to finally stop doing the stuff you hate and focus on the stuff that makes you money, go to worksby.com right now. That's WORXBEE.com. Tell them Walker sent you, and you'll get those 2 free hours. Welcome to the No BS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay, and I am happy to have as my guest, Rochelle Carrington, who is the president of Bulletproof Management, which is a lead generation company. But I've known Rochelle for probably 15 years. We used to work together at Sandler Training, and she was one of my favorite people there, and I'm honored to have her on the show. She's going to talk to us today about a mindset that is being attached to getting an outcome, but not to what the outcome is. So I can't wait to unpack that. Rochelle, welcome to the No BS Sales School podcast.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
It's great. Rochelle, do you mind taking 2 minutes and telling us how you got to where you are now as president of Bulletproof Management?
Sure. So started back in fashion magazines in sales for magazines people may know of, Glamour Magazine, Marie Claire Magazine. As it started as a salesperson, went into management. And I remember being slightly frustrated with some of the issues that we were having from our salespeople standpoint. I stumbled across Sandler Training and learned a little bit about what that methodology was all about. It made perfect sense to me. And so I decided to leave the magazine industry and start my own business with a Sandler Training franchise.
Can I ask you a question there? When you grew up, did you say either number one, boy, I'd like to be in sales, and or number two, I want to own my own company? Were those things you had dreamed about, or that just kind of come along through a progression?
Never dreamed about being in sales, although my father always told me that I was a good salesperson. So I kind of had it in my head, and he was in sales. So to me, sales was not this disgusting profession that a lot of people think it is, right?
Yes.
But I did want to own my own business. What I really wanted to do was I wanted to own a magazine. And so that's why I went into the magazine industry. I thought I would be on the editorial side, but what I found out is that you make more money and you climb through the ranks faster on the sales side. And so
Makes perfect
since those
sense.
were 2 goals, I went, forget writing, I'm going to go sell.
Yeah, good. Right. Perfect. Okay. And so then you found Sandler Training and started your own company.
Right.
Right. And so 13 years?
13 years doing that. Had a great time, trained, hundreds, thousands, who knows, people. And one of the biggest issues that I kept seeing from my clients, and I think this probably is with everybody, is that prospecting was always an issue. And we would train people on how to do it, the mindset associated with it, the techniques associated with it, the activities you should be doing. And, after 13 years, when I decided to retire from Sandler, I thought, what am I going to do next? What could be a problem that I can help people solve? And so the problem that I saw with everybody, no matter what industry people were in, was prospecting. And so that's when I decided to start a company that would do lead generation, that would automate the prospecting for people so that they could do what they really love and what most salespeople are far better at and far more comfortable with, which is really selling, asking the questions, having those sales conversations, and closing the deal. And then they don't have to worry so much about all the pressure that is put on them to find leads and get
Well,
approved.
then they can blame the leads and not
Yeah,
their
exactly.
inability to go sell, right? I mean, for God's sake, we got to give them an excuse. And
If the lead is better, then I could close it.
yeah, right. You people are, this is terrible, right? But if it's you responsible to get your own. So how do you respond to the statement that a salesperson who can bring their own leads is probably 10 times more valuable to a company than one that uses company leads?
Well, I think that's true. If a salesperson can bring in their own leads, I would hire that salesperson over anything else. But
Absolutely.
most can't do it. Or what happens is they may be really good at it, but they just don't have the time. And
Right.
so, the time becomes a crunch. And as a result, they can't get as many. And over time, as you're in sales for longer and longer, it's one of those things that you get tired of. You kind of go like, why should I have to bring in all of these? And people start to really get more referrals, which is great. But sometimes you don't get the number of referrals that you need. And so,
Yes.
I don't think at this point, that there's anything wrong with augmenting your prospecting efforts with someone else. What I always advise companies to do is don't rely on an outsourced company to find all your leads for you, because that then puts you at their mercy. You
Yes.
still have the prospecting activities that you do, a few of them you do that you're very good at and that you can do. You don't have to be comfortable, you don't really have to like them, but you're good at
Yeah.
them. For those
Yep.
2 or 3 activities, and then hire a company that can augment that so that you're not always under this pressure of filling that pipeline.
So it's like a little bit like we teach people that your pipeline, your prospecting thing needs to have, 3 or 4 or 5 buckets of places you're finding. So maybe part of it is calling, part of it is networking, part of it is referrals, and then part of it is leads generated from outside. Is that
Right.
kind of the way that works?
Yes, absolutely.
So how did you figure out how to do that? How did you figure out how to be a lead generation person? Because I don't know that how did you do that?
A lot of it, I studied it for 3 years. I've taken courses and all sorts of things. The background that I, have from all my sales training also helped in terms of crafting messages. And
Right.
the way that we really do it is through personalized emails, not mass emails. A lot of people are just going out and trying to either make connections on LinkedIn and then go
Mhm.
right for a meeting. And people are overwhelmed with that. We all get those messages
Uh,
all the time. Or you get a mass email that has been sent out to another 1,000 people. And
yeah.
so the reason why we do really well with it is we get very, very targeted, very, very personalized, and so we get higher responses than what many other companies can do. So it's
You've
just a
been
lot of trial and error too, and it's a lot of testing of subject lines and emails, and we A/B test like a maniac, so that we know what works, and what works in one industry is going to be a little bit different than another industry. And the other really interesting thing is geography is also really interesting, where we could get huge open rates and responses in, say, San Francisco, and lower in New Jersey
Isn't
for
that
the same
funny?
exact product. And it's just, that's kind of the crazy part of it, because I would have thought it would be the opposite, but a lot of
So
tests.
what surprised you you've been in that business, running the business for
3 years.
4 years, 5 years, 3 years?
Yeah.
What surprised you the most about either the business or the outcomes? What surprised you the most?
What surprised me is the number of people that will respond back with, hey, I really appreciate the email you sent, even if they're not interested, even if they have no, they don't want to
How
talk
about
to you,
that?
but they compliment like that. This was a really unique email, or I never answer these, but I'm answering yours because it sounded different. And that's the part that, you win no matter what in a situation.
Oh yeah. So it's funny. One of the things that I talk to a lot of my clients about is to remind them that nobody can see that you're better until they see that you're different.
Right.
And so clearly that's what you are putting out there as well, as a message that helps differentiate your clients from the others that they compete against, and are probably hammering the same group of folks. Is there a
Right.
particular niche or type of business or whatever that what you're doing works the best in?
No, I wouldn't say there's a particular niche. It just needs to be a high price point
Yeah.
because
Okay.
our services are expensive, so it's got to be a high price point so that you can when you close a deal on it, you're already getting a return on investment just with
And
one
so
deal.
do you find a difference in marketing for services versus products? I get that all the time. Oh, we don't sell a product, we sell a service, so it's different. Do you have a difference there?
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Everybody's always got a reason, right?
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's different for me because I sell a service and it's not something that you can hold in your hand. And I always think when I was selling sales training, and even now with what I'm doing, it's nothing you can hold in your hand. There's no
Right.
difference,
Yeah, well, but see, we're not just selling like used cars out there. Is that
right?
bullshit that I usually
Right.
hear, right? Oh, well, right. Well, me neither, right? So good.
Yeah.
That's really perfect. So tell me about this mindset, be attached to getting an outcome, but not to what the outcome is. What does that mean?
Yeah, so it sounds very confusing, but it's something that I taught to my clients for years and years and years. And basically, what it means is with every selling situation, you must get an outcome, and the outcome, depending on where you are in your sales process, is going to be different. So every salesperson needs to know how many sales calls, and when I say sales calls, what I mean by that, how I define that is, that is that discussion you are having with your target prospect. I'm not
Yeah.
talking prospecting calls because sometimes people get confused. Uh,
Yes.
so you need to know how many sales calls it takes to close a deal. Does it take one, two, three, five? What is it? And you
Hmm.
need to know that also for the size of prospect you're going after. So not all prospects are the same size. Not all deals are the same size. You have your small, you have your medium, you have your large. And so ideally, your small ones take fewer sales calls to close than your really, really big ones. So if you understand what your sales cycle looks like and how many sales calls it's going to take, then you've got to figure out what is the decision that I want the prospect to make in every single sales call that I'm going to have with them. So that decision is going to obviously change. If you're in a 3-call close, the decision on the first call is not going to be, we're doing business together because
Give me
that's
a check. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. So if you understand, just basically those steps, what are the sales calls? How many? What is the decision that you want made? And then what your job is in that sales call is to get that outcome. So if the outcome on a first sales call is we're going to book another meeting, then that is, you've got to be attached to getting an outcome. So an
A
outcome,
yes or no, a yes or no to that, right?
right? So the outcome is we're booking another meeting. When I say don't be attached to what the outcome is, you can't be attached to whether you're getting the yes or the no. So if you get the no, that's just as good, not ideal, but just as good as getting the yes. But the main
Unpack that for a second, because I think there's some people that are going, huh? How in the world could getting a no, Rochelle, be as valuable often as getting a yes?
because you have closure. It's just
Yeah.
about closure. You know what to do when you get a no. And the no is either going to be, we're done forever. The no could be, I'm going to follow up with this company in a year and see if anything's changed. Um, but at least now you don't have to spend time, trying to get something booked again, trying to go after that company. And I think too often,
Becoming a
yeah,
pest,
yeah,
right? Becoming a
yeah,
pest.
right. And salespeople are so obsessed with getting the yes that that's like all they focus on. And so what they do is they miss the keys and the clues and the cues of the objections or the problems that may come up to make the sale not happen. And when you're missing those things, because all you're doing is you're looking down one line and you're just like, I just want that green light, then you're going to miss what people are saying that you need to dig into more. Most objections are not actually said, are not actually stated. They're sort of understated in what somebody is, the questions they're asking you, or the answers that they're giving you to the questions that you ask. And so we've got to be super aware of why is somebody saying what they're saying, and then what do I do with that information? Do I need to go deeper or not? So when we go back to being attached to an outcome, I think the biggest mistake that salespeople make, and I know I did this years ago when I first started, was you just walk out with a like, hey, I'll call you back, I'll let you know,
Yeah.
or call me on Monday. And we think that's
Hey, I
actually
got one.
and it's not. It's not. And that when you call them on Monday and you're like, oh, now they're not calling me back. I wonder what happened. Well, guess what? You screwed it up the week before when you didn't get the outcome. But you can't get upset about what the outcome is. An outcome is just, you want clarity. It's really just about getting clarity. So
And
your next
so,
steps.
and so that expression that you and I both learned a long time ago, right, is some will, some won't. So what? Who's next? Some people will buy, some people won't. So what? Who's the next one?
Right.
On the opposite end of that, not the opposite end, but a different take on that is when I first started working with a financial planner, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago. Great guy, really smart. But we first met, he said it takes 5 meetings to close my type of client, 5 meetings. And so I asked him to walk through the process. And I asked him a question. I said, let's pretend this is somebody you really trusted, that trusted you implicitly.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still going to make them go through a 5-meeting process? And he said, well, yeah. And I said, why? I said, what if they want to write you a check at the first meeting? And I said, would you accept it? He goes, well, yeah. And so anyway, we began working on managing expectations like that. And it's amazing. Now it's 2 calls at the most, because he realized he was running off a lot of people, right, who didn't want to go through the 5-step process. Just like as soon as you make somebody aware of problems they may be having, they're going to start looking around for other solutions if you drag them on. So absolutely, us understanding what it really takes and being okay with no is huge, because then we don't become pests to people. We can move the ball forward. We can move on to somebody else. And oftentimes we call them back.
We don't cling that one deal that we really want, that we believe we should get, but they've already, they're off the skids already. So when you're clinging to that, it keeps you from doing all the other things. I don't need to go find new deals because I've got this one that I think and I want, and I know they should buy from us. And it's not that whether they should buy from you or not. We don't decide that. We just have to do a great job on that sales call to get them to figure it out.
Yes.
We can't tell them.
And it's one of those, another probably part of this mindset is, and I teach my clients this, and I think you believe this as well, is when I show up at a sales call, I can have, these are not my words, but my belief is I am absolutely certain I can help you. Certain I can help you, but you may not be ready for me yet.
Right.
Right. And so it's not that I'm conceding that my stuff isn't great. It's that you may not want it yet. It may not be time.
Right.
So, as I know, tell me something. How do we go ahead and have this mindset of I need to have an outcome, but without putting pressure on our prospects? How do you do that?
Well, if you
where do you begin to, I guess I'm going to lead you for a second. Where do we begin to let people know this is what happens?
Okay. Great question. So we let them know in the very beginning. So first of all, you let them know what to expect when you're on the phone with them and you're setting up that first sales call. People do not like surprises. They don't want to have that pressure. And so if we tell them agenda and what sort of outcome, what the couple of options of an outcome might be, then we are directing them, but then they have the choice, right? We're saying, here's the road we're going to drive down. They have the choice of driving fast, driving slow. They have the choice of saying, you know what, I don't want to drive down this road anymore. Right. And so what we're really doing, so we've got to do it on the phone when we are booking that call. And then we do it again when you get in front of them, whether you're doing it on Zoom, whether you're doing over the phone call, whether you're doing it in person. It doesn't matter what the situation is. You've always got to do that up front, even if you just told them that 2 days ago on the phone, because they 100%. Don't remember. They don't remember. They've had like 1,000 things happen in between that time.
Yes.
So you remind them and you clarify it, and that way they're prepped. It's really about pre-prepping someone to make a decision. And then you've got to make sure that you just don't push the decision you want. We all know the decision in a selling situation that you want. You want somebody to say, yes, here, take my money.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's
Right.
go.
Yep.
We
Yep.
all want that. That's obvious. But that's where we can't be attached to that, because if we push that, that's when the prospect is going to have to start to maybe mislead you. They feel like they're being pushed so hard to a yes. That's when they're like, well, I've got to talk to somebody else. Oh, I got to look at my budget. Well, we really want to do it, but just
This is why the old "if I show you a way, would you buy today" thing is such crap.
Ugh.
Because people can see that.
It's
people
creepy.
can see that coming from miles away, because of course you can show them a fripping way, right? It's, I mean, for God's sake. And so it also, when you say that crap to somebody, you're taking away their agency. And so, but by telling at the beginning, why don't we figure out whether or not this makes sense?
Right.
And if at the end, if you don't want to do this, awesome. Just tell me so. I won't chase you down the road. If you do want to do this, what that means is you write me a check, we sign our contract, and we move on.
Right.
Anything less than you're being excited about signing a contract, let's call it a no. Right. I interviewed somebody about a year ago, and she said, unless it's a hell yes, it's a no. And I thought that was great. I thought that was brilliant. Unless it's a hell yes, I'm excited about this, let's just call it a no. Because, and so then when somebody says to you, well, I'm not sure, or why don't you call me in a week? When you get that crap, what you know is that's just a long no. And you could say, I appreciate that. I don't want to put any pressure on you. Let's just call this a no. Is that okay?
Right. And most people really appreciate that. That's a hard thing to do. I remember the first time I did that, I was sweating like a maniac. I did not want to say that because I did the yes. I was too attached to a yes outcome. But when I said it, they said, you know what? I really appreciate that. Yeah, let's call it a no.
And the cool thing is,
okay, we just saved
how much easier is it to get back in the door with somebody too? That last time you talked to them, you're like, hey, let's just call this a no. And you call them back 6 months, a year later, and they go, holy shit, hey, how you doing? Right. Happy to talk to you again.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of appreciation that goes with that, because it's just the honesty. We need to give people choice. We know what the choices are with anything. There's always a yes, there's always a no. They take different forms, in terms of what the yes is. Again, whether it's another meeting, whether it's another meeting with another decision maker, whether it's a signed contract. So all we need to decide as salespeople is, what does the yes mean in this situation, but also talk about the ability to say, look, it's not the right timing, or I don't want to put in the effort, or whatever their reason for no is. And then to be very happy and proud of yourself that you got an answer. The failure is in not getting an answer. The failure is not, you get a no, that is not a failure. Because sales is also about efficiency. Salespeople are running around doing a million different things. And a lot of times, salespeople may not be the most organized people in the world. I am a salesperson.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say I'm feeling this deeply as you say this, right?
Yeah. So, we've got to get really time efficient. And the best way to get time efficient is to get the outcome, and it tells you what to do. And I love when I would train people sometime and they'd be like, Rochelle, I got the outcome, but it wasn't good. And I'd say, well, what do you mean? And they'd say, well, I got the no. And I said, that's great. They're like, but no, that wasn't the outcome. I'm like, it is the outcome. It may not be the one you wanted, but it is an outcome. And therefore, now set that one aside and move on. You got to move on. You got to keep going down that road. Otherwise, you just spend the time over and over and over again with the same people that have already told you no 12 times.
And it gets harder and harder to do anything. So, I mean, how many of us really get yeses most of the time? What I tell my clients, say, oh, I close 80%. And I'll say, well, that's great. You're just not in front of enough of the right people is what that tells me, right?
Or they're all referrals, maybe.
Yeah, they're all referrals, and sure, but or you're not charging enough money.
Right.
And so, I tell people, I don't know what the exact number is, but if you're getting 40% of your ideal prospects you're going after at any given time, that's freaking awesome.
Yeah.
And which means that 6 out of 10 times you're going to hear no. Might as well hear it sooner rather than later.
Right.
Have you ever read Donald Miller's Story Brand?
No, I haven't.
It's a great book. I've mentioned it's one of my favorites, and it was really impactful on me when I was starting the No BS sales school. He writes about that in every story, there are different characters. And one of the characters, there's generally a hero, the person that saves the day, but every hero has a guide, the Yoda, if you will, right? The Yoda, and then there's Luke Skywalker. And as I was reading this book, I thought about salespeople. And what a lot of salespeople want to do is come home, with the check, ring the bell, be the hero, win, give the high five, get on the board.
Right.
But the problem with that is the opposite of hero is loser. And nobody wants to be the loser. So therefore we keep, until somebody hits us in the head, we're going to keep going for the yes.
Right.
What Miller talks about is work instead on making your prospect or your new client the hero for the decision they made. And we should be the guide. And so the way a guide processes things is they're really asking questions, see if this person is the right fit. If they are, great. If they're not, we've got other people to go. And we're trying to, and so that to me, and it takes the pressure off, and getting an answer, a yes or a no, that way can be the victory. And you can come home and go, yes, I didn't waste any more time with those people. And that's okay.
Right. And that's a tough mindset to create. I love that idea of being a guide. And that is that whole concept of that's why you tell somebody up front what's going to happen in the meeting and what decision is going to occur, the yes or the no, and and then you have to detail what those things mean.
Yes.
So that it's crystal clear for people. But that your job is not to push somebody into buying something. Your job is to guide them to make a decision. That is really what a salesperson's job is. But
Correct.
I think if management would oftentimes help salespeople understand that a no is good, then salespeople are going to be a lot more likely to go and get that outcome and to come back with hey, I get a high five because I got the no, and now I'm not going to go waste 3 months of my life chasing somebody down that's never going to do anything with me. So management is key in helping salespeople to understand that and supporting that mindset.
I'm still surprised at how many companies I come across that management is encouraging. We're going to measure number of proposals you put out. And that's what we're going to, and that is bullshit and a waste of time.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
I mean, I can train salespeople. We can train and coach those guys, but if management is not supportive of this, if they're still old school, it's a complete waste.
Right.
Hey, Rochelle, can I share with you a couple of things that I have learned today?
Yes, absolutely.
I love the way you phrase this mindset: be attached to getting an outcome, but not what the outcome is. It really does. It does explain very well kind of how do we keep ourselves emotionally detached? Because I know before I knew what the hell I was doing, anytime I got a no, I was devastated. Right. And that's one of the things, right? So then you may spend an hour or two or a week or a month or a year being pissed off that something didn't happen, when instead of realizing, whew, I got a no, that's great. I got a yes, that's great. Who's the next one I need to be talking to? And the idea of having a no being so important because of the time efficiency that it creates. And getting a no after the first meeting as opposed to after the 5th meeting is a gigantic win in my book.
Yes.
Hey, Rochelle, how would people find you if they wanted to talk to you about the lead management? Excuse me, the lead generation stuff that you do. How would somebody? And I'm assuming you work all over the country, right? You are location agnostic.
Yes. I was going to say that same thing. That's so funny.
Nice.
So best way to find me, you can just email me, Rochelle@RochelleCarrington.com, or go on to LinkedIn, just search up my name. You can find me that way as well. Those are probably the 2 best ways. And all my contact information is right on LinkedIn, or connect with me and you can see different posts and things like that we put out.
Okay. So it's Rochelle with 2 L's and Carrington with 2 R's.
Yes.
Correct.
CARRINGTON.
Okay, perfect. They'll reach out to Rochelle. She is She is as kind and smart as she sounds on the phone. And if you are looking for help with lead generation, I would recommend that you talk with her. WS Sales Team, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I certainly did. And it's an honor for me to be able to interview people like Rochelle and to share her information with you all. Do me a favor. Several of y'all have reached out to me. I mean, it seems every week. How can I support your podcast? How can I help you? And the best way you can do that is to subscribe and to give 5-star ratings. Our listener base, it seems to be growing, if not every week, every month, which is cool. And that's because of the remarks. What do they call it? Not remarks, but recommendations of people, right? Referrals, that kind of recommendations, that kind of stuff. And give me 5-star reviews. If you feel that way, give me a 5-star review and subscribe. If you don't feel that way, well, don't listen anymore. So, Rochelle, thank you for being a part of this show, for agreeing to be on here. And I'll look forward to our paths crossing again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.